Hey, this is Bruce Hagan with Bike Law Georgia, and I'm here today with Atlanta cycling legend and the person who, if there's one person in Atlanta that embodies the entire cycling community, I think everybody would agree that it's Angel Poventud. So Angel, great to have you this morning. Great to talk to you.
Thank you, Bruce. It's so good to be included in this project that you're doing.
Yeah, so we just want to kind of talk to you a little bit about your involvement in the Atlanta cycling community and give a sense to folks who may not know you, in case there is that one person in Atlanta who doesn't know you, a little bit about who you are. So tell us a little bit just about, first of all, how you came to Atlanta, how long you've been here, and what brought you here.
I'm like, where to start? So I've been here 22 years. I got here in like March of 1998. I moved up from Miami, Florida. I was a baggage handler for the airlines. And so doing that in Miami and then moved up here and continued to do that. Family brought me up here. At the time, my mom, my sister, and my grandmother were up here. My grandma ended up living to be 100. She passed away in 2007. She was born in 1907. So family, airline, baggage handler, and 22 years.
Awesome. And so at some point you left the baggage handling business and went to work at CSX?
Yeah, so in 2005, after the aftermath and fallout of September 11, decimated the airline industry. The U.S. Airways closed down the Atlanta hub here at Hartsfield, and I had a choice to transfer to Charlotte or just stay put. I was like, peace out. And so I left the airline industry after 12 years, and I've actually been a railroader now for 15 years.
That's great. That's great. And so at some point after you came to Atlanta, you became this de facto king of the cycling community in a sense, but particularly you became synonymous with critical mass. How did that get started?
So I was rollerblading down Peachtree Street one day, probably about 2005, 6, 7, around there. And because I used to rollerblade like 40 hours a week way back then. And I'm going down, I think I was like going southbound, and this Florida bikers are coming northbound out of downtown. They're just starting. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I'd never seen a bike crew like that. Like, I grew up in South Florida where we have a ton of rollerbladers, but I'd never seen a group of bikers. And I tagged along. I was like, U-turn. And then I was like, hey, well, who are you guys? Where are you going? What's going on? And found out that it was critical mass and just started to tag along and became kind of like the mascot. I was out there, usually at the back, usually in a green dress, just rollerblading, keeping up with the mass.
So from mascot, you became something of an organizer, if there is any way to even organize something like this.
So it was a long transition. So, I went from rollerblading it mostly to biking it a lot. And once you start biking it, then you find yourself kind of gravitating towards the front. And so from 2007 to 2011, let's say, I found myself at the front more and more and helping create routes. And, it's all about suggestion making. And if you make a bad suggestion, nobody ever listens to you again. And so being at the front, making suggestions, being helpful, those things go a long way, month after month after month after month. And it wasn't until I bought my house here in Southwest Atlanta in 2011. And then I moved in June of 13. So once the house got done, I had a little more time on my hands. And I also wanted to show off the west side of the city. So it was right around that time that I really started to kind of take the reins a little bit and get a little more bold with my route recommendations. And people really responded to that. Like, hey, where are you going to take us today, Angel? And like that kind of that loop fed itself. And, here we are. I say that I've been helping to create the route for about the last 6 years.
So it sounds like a very organic process, and it just kind of happened as we went along. We're sitting here doing this interview remotely now because we're sort of living under the restrictions of the COVID-19 problems, which of course have affected critical mass, not just in Atlanta, but all over the place. How do you think that we'll get back to critical mass, and what do you think it'll look like when we start trying to open things up and get back to some semblance of normal?
I I really think we can probably get going by June, July, ideally. Um, but I think the way like, I've never been a helmet crusader. Like I wear one. I'm a big believer in leading by example and not by preaching. And so I wear one, and I hope that's a good visual message for others. But I think when we have a first mass, that like masks are going to be required. Like, like
Yeah.
if you want to be out here and be responsible, you don't need a helmet, but you need a mask because it's just the new reality that we're in.
Yeah, and I'm sure trying to impose some sense of distancing between riders is going to be a challenge as well.
Impossible. It's actually impossible. Like, it's impossible. If you think about, and so I used to do walks on the Beltline with 40, 50, 100 people. Um, and everyone wants to chat and talk and be close. There's no way to have, 300 people 6 feet apart. It's not possible.
We'd really take over the whole city.
Yeah, we would. That's great. Let's do it that way.
So what do you like best about the whole cycling community and the cycling culture in Atlanta? And it
The
doesn't have to be just one
diversity-
thing.
Yeah, no. The diversity of neighborhoods, the diversity of riders, the diversity of like access. When you're rollerblading or walking, you get when driving, you get no connection to community. You're in a box, windows are up, you're going by 40 miles an hour. When you're walking or rollerblading, you get greater access to engagement, like one-on-one, but you're kind of limited in the scale of city exploring you can do and community and neighborhood exploring. So the bike is like the perfect fit for me of being able to see a lot of the city, but also having really powerful connections where somebody can pull up next to you in a car and be like, hey, I've got a question about directions. Or a pedestrian can wave and say, have a nice day. It's like that perfect medium of living in motion.
I'm not surprised that for you it is all about the connection to people as well, because that's who you are. You're a connector.
Yeah, I'm not one of those like I'm gonna get on the bike and bike 50 miles out and back by myself. It's beautiful, but I need a sense of community when I do things, and I get it from being in town and exploring the city in town.
Yeah. What do you think some of the most significant changes have been in the city since you've started riding here, whether it was even on skates or on a bike?
We don't get honked at anymore. Like, that's huge. Every time you got on a bike 15, 20 years ago, you got honked at. And now, as long as you're like in the Beltline ring, people they tolerate us, which is pretty great. Not being tolerated sucks, but like people being willing to know that you're now a part of their city and they have to make room for you, it's awesome. Once you leave the perimeter, it's a whole different beast out there. But between the Beltline and the perimeter, 285, it's pretty, even out there you get honked at, but it's not like aggression city.
Yeah. And it seems to be fewer and fewer incidences.
Yeah, it gets better. It gets better every day. It's wild.
Yeah. What role do you think the Beltline has had in creating that?
So I came from South Florida. We had Lincoln Road Mall. We had Ocean Drive. We had places that people could go to be in community, not in cars, and not paying money for it. Like, I think that's the biggest, like the key point. Our parks, our green space, Beltline. When people have access to these things for free, and they're not limited by money or class, then all of a sudden everyone can show up. And so the Beltline, pre-Beltline, we had great parks, but they weren't connected. We had Grant Park, and Piedmont Park, Freedom Parkway, and people could go to those parks, but they couldn't get between the parks without, safely getting in their car and going to the next park. And we're creating this place for people that's free and accessible.
That's great. It really is just the most equitable type of activity we have here.
Safe, safe, free, accessible.
So how do you see the future of cycling in Atlanta, both like in the short term and then in the long term?
So I have to be real careful because I tell people all the time, my Atlanta is not here yet. Like the Atlanta I use every day is like 5 years away because I go to the quarry and I'm checking out the construction at the quarry park. I go to the church lines going to connect the Georgia World Congress Center to Silver Comet, and I'm out there like exploring the construction zone right now. And so in my mind, it's all connected already because I'm using those corridors even though they're not ready yet. Probably within 5 years, it's all going to be connected. So Emory, Buckhead, Beltline, Silver Comet, north, south, east, west, the whole thing is going to be seamlessly connected. And then the street grid, great streets like Ponce with a bike lane on it now, and we can improve that even better. John Portman, cycle track through downtown, Freedom Parkway Trail, all those things, it's seamless. And it doesn't feel that way all the time. And definitely, we can want more and we need more, but we're getting so much infrastructure.
So it sounds like the combination of just connectivity of trails and facilities, as well as building out more and more bike infrastructure is the
We just did a groundbreaking on the new 400 trail bridge that's going to go over the north fork of the Peachtree Creek at the confluence there by Lindbergh last week. And that bridge is going to be open in about 6 months. And it'll open up another 2 or 3 miles of trails that right now really aren't accessible. And it'll connect that to the 400 trail all the way up past Buckhead, and eventually in the next 4 or 5 years to the Beltline from Lindbergh all the way down to Midtown. And wow.
Yeah. When you hear about things like that, it's pretty clear that the will of the people is starting to be heard by the politicians, and they're acting on it by spending the money where it needs to be spent. So hopefully that continues.
It's been one of the biggest challenges with critical mass because in some ways I've broken critical mass. Like, we're supposed to be in the way, we're supposed to be demanding more, we're supposed to be, the kind of guiding principle of mass is become visible. And I've taken that and I'm like, let's be visible, but also let's have fun and do it in a way that we can be out there and in the way, but be intentional about how we're visible, that we're having a good time, reducing the conflict, because just, if 400 people are having a good time together, we're visible. We're not hiding. We're not shying away from the activism, but it's doing it in a way that's, in my opinion, for me personally, a little more constructive.
Great. So, okay, last question here. If you could be in the position of just being the king of Atlanta when it comes to all things cycling, what would you like to see happen? And what would be the first order of business that you would institute as the leader?
So I thank you for the title. I'm gonna start doing stuff right now. Actually, so this pandemic shutdown that we're in has given us a glimpse that our roads don't need the capacity that they're built for. And so the first inkling I had of this is when the 85 connector collapsed up there near Piedmont. And we have 1 million cars a day that use 20, 75, 85, 285. 1 million cars a day. And those cut through trips, they bleed over onto our local roads when the interstate backs up. And when the interstate collapsed and people started using the ring instead of coming through town, our roads lightened up. And what we're seeing today is that our roads are lightening up again because none of us are doing our errand running with our cars, making 5 stops. We might make one essential trip at 1 stop, but we're being more intentional about our car usage. And the road capacity that we have can totally handle a road diet everywhere. So every 2-lane road should be a 1-lane road for cars and 1 lane for bikes and pedestrians, period, across the city. Just do it overnight. And I think in creating more space for people, the cars would slow down. It would be safer for everyone. And again, the one lane roads, like we don't make those disappear. It'll just become, car focused corridors where bike safety, we don't put a bike facility in there. So bike safety is, you're kind of out there with the car, be kind, everyone. But as soon as you get on a Ponce or the Cab Ave right now, where there's like 3 lanes, and just wipe out that car capacity because we do not need it. And if we take it away now, while the demand isn't there, as the demand comes back, people will be able to make adjustments quicker and better and use other options because there'll be more safe routes out there. That's my I'm king, tomorrow this happens.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'll get a petition started. We'll see if we can make that happen.
Oh, okay. I'll have my last day of freedom and then I'll go be king.
All right, Angel, thanks so much for talking to us, and appreciate it. And anybody who sees this, if you want to follow us on our Facebook page, which is Bike Law Georgia, or keep up with us through other social media, we'll put this out there and get the world to just hear what an awesome person Angel Poventud is. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Have a great day, Bruce.
You too.